Hello everyone, we are the Group 5 and we are going to report about the Jose Rizal's romantic interlude, and now we will discover who are the women who came into the life of Jose Rizal. For the continuation of the report, I am Sanchez Jessa, so I will continue the Jose Rizal's romantic interlude. So for his concepts, like any other countries around the globe, the Philippines has established its own set of unique, exemplary, and symbolic dating traditions and costumes, making it more appealing to locals and foreigners alike. From pre-colonial era up until present, the Filipino culture has remained true to its legacy in spite of the many innovation and societal changes it has gone through. So, although there are tremendous shifts in terms of the wooing practices among Filipinos, still it cannot be denied that they still give a huge amount of love and affection toward the persons they cherish, whether that romantic pursuits is done conventionally or contemporarily. So during the post-Hispanic times in the country, sending love letters was technically one of the most coveted dating and courtship norms. This gesture was inspired by the country's national hero, Dr. Jose P. Rizal, who was so fond of writing letters, poems, and novels. Jose Rizal's dalliances with various women in the Philippines and elsewhere in the world have made him a legend and a hero to Filipino men who aspired to be as smooth as he was. The point is, the man was just like us, falling in love and waxing sentimental over fond memories about the one that got away, or in this case, the more than one who got away. So, Segunda Katigbak. So, Segunda was the sister of Mariano Katigbak, Rizal's friend and classmate. She studied in La Concordia College, where Rizal's sister Olympia also studied. The reason why Rizal frequently visited La Concordia College was not only to see his sister, but also to have a glimpse of Segunda. So, however, their story did not end being together because Rizal told Segunda that he was returning home to Calamba for the new year. He waited for her and he did see her pass by on a carriage. In fact, she waved to him, but instead of following her, he returned home dazed and desolated, with his first romance ruined by his own shyness and reserve.
Have a pleasant day to you, Ma'am Ebon. My assigned topic is about Junior Orang Valenzuela and Consuelo Ortiga Y. Rey. Um, First is Junior Orang Valenzuela. Okay. Junior Orang Valenzuela, Rizal's second object of affection, is literally the girl next door. They met when Rizal was a sophomore medical student at the University of Santo Tomas, during which time he also lived at Doña Concha Lebas boarding house in Tramuros, Manila. Um, During the courtship, Rizal was said to have sent Leonor private and secret love letters, which he wrote using invisible ink made with water and salt. He was adept in chemistry. To read the letters, Orang had no hate the letter over a candle or a lamp. So during that time, Leonor Orang was happy because of what's Rizal did to her, because of what Rizal letter that sent to her. She was happy on that time. Um, Jose Rizal, a love letter written in invisible ink to Leonor Valenzuela, a tall girl from Pagsanjan. So mao ni siya ang katong letter kay gisulat ni Rizal para kay Leonor Orang, kay mao to yung pamaagi sa iyang pag courtship niya. Mao to nga yun ang pamamaraan niya sa panliligaw kay Leonor Orang. Unfortunately, they go separate ways when Rizal had to leave for Spain. So, moto katong yung pag-alis ni Rizal, nag-separate na sila because um, because of Rizal went to Spain on that time. So for the next one is Consuelo Ortega Y. Rey. Consuelo Ortega Y. Rey, the prettier of Don Pablo Ortega's daughter, fell in love with him. So on that time, Consuelo Ortega, she was fall in love with our national hero, which is si Rizal. He dedicated to her La Señorita COYR, which became one of his best poems. The Ortega's residence in Madrid was frequented by Rizal and his compatriots. So, kato nga time, kay gikilig pud si kuan ato nga time si Consuelo sa poem na gihimo ni Rizal. Consuelo Y. Ortega Rey, the prettier of Don Pablo Ortega daughters, fell in love with him. So na kuan gid siya kining na fall siya kay Rizal ato nga time. He dedicated to her La Señorita, which became one of his best poems. So mo to no as what I've said a while ago, mo to ang iyang imo nga poem para kay Consuelo Ortega. He probably fell in love with her, and Consuelo apparently asked him for romantic verses. He suddenly backed out before the relationship turned into a serious romance. Okay. Because he wanted to remain loyal to Leonor Rivera, and he did not want to destroy his friendship with Eduardo de Leyte, who was madly in love with Consuelo. Okay. So si Eduardo Leyte ay isa siya sa friend ni Rizal na naibog pod kay Consuelo, tapos si Consuelo is kay Rizal siya na fall. So, that's all. Thank you.
Leonor Rivera. So, who is Leonor Rivera on Rizal's life? So, this is the most significant love and heartbreak. Quoted, Rivera allegedly burned all of Rizal's letters and had the ashes sewn into the fabric of her wedding dress. Leonor Rivera was born on April 11, 1867. She was 6 years younger than Rizal. The father of Leonor and Francisco Mercado, Rizal's father, were cousins, making Rizal and Rivera second or third cousins. Rivera studied at the Colegio de la Inmaculada Concepcion de la Concordia, more commonly known as Colegio de la Concordia or simply La Concordia. It was the same school where Rizal's sisters attended. So Rizal was already in his second year of studying medicine at the University of Santo Tomas in Intramuros when he met Leonor Rivera, where he was a boarder at the house of Rivera's parent. So Rizal was a boarder at the house of Rivera's parents. That's why the two of them met. Then, according to Filipino historian Ambeth Ocampo, Rizal and Rivera met in 1880 and got engaged in the same year, where Rizal was 19 years old and Leonor was 13 years old. So they kept their relationship secret. Their engagement would last for 10 years. It was a very long engagement because it was 14 years. But then in 1880, Rizal left Europe in secret, but still he keeps on correspondence with his fiancée, Leonor Rivera, where he comes involved in propaganda movement. In 1887, Rizal publishes the Noli Me Tangere, where he immortalizes Leonor Rivera as Maria Clara. But then Leonor mother bribes the postman to intercept all correspondence between Rizal and Rivera. Also, Rizal's father compels him to avoid the Riveras to keep them safe. The only contention that Mrs. Rivera had against Rizal's relationship with her daughter was the fact that he posed a risk to the Rivera's family's influence and power. The relationship between Rizal and Rivera seemed strategic. A marriage between the two would preserve the two families' wealth from being diluted. But when Rizal arrived in Europe sometime in 1882 or 1883, he immediately wrote Rivera but still received nothing. Rizal thought that Rivera was angry at him, but unknown to both of them, it was Mrs. Rivera who had been intercepting their mail with help from a postman she had bribed. Because of this, Leonor accepted the proposal of Charles Henry Keeping, a British engineer who worked for the Ferrocarril de Manila y Dagupan, the nascent form of the Philippine National Railways. But in Mrs. Rivera's defense, she was only protecting her family. She didn't burn or dispose of Rizal's letters. She kept them, probably to show them all to Leonor before her marriage to another man, which is exactly what Mrs. Rivera did. At 20 years old in 1890, Leonor Rivera became Mrs. Leonor Rivera Keeping. She gave birth to her son Carlos in the same year, but this news came to Rizal as a shock as they have been engaged for over 10 years. Rizal was very hurt and heartbroken. On August 23, 1893, Leonor died while giving birth to her daughter, who also died in childbirth. According to Ocampo, Rizal locked himself inside his room and brooded for a whole day. Next, who is Saiko Usai in Rizal's life? So, Saiko Usai is a Japanese girlfriend of Rizal. It was during Rizal's second trip abroad when he met Seiko Usai. From Hong Kong, he arrived in Japan in February 1888 and moved to the Spanish legation in the Azabo district of Tokyo upon the invitation of an official in the legation. If only Jose Rizal had no patriotic mission and no political will, he would have married her and settled in Japan for good. Rizal saw Seiko passing by the legation in one of her daily afternoon walks. Fascinated by her charm, Rizal inquired and learned from a Japanese gardener some basic information about her. She was called by Rizal Osai-san, was 22 years old when she met Rizal. Also, she was a samurai's daughter. Osai-san voluntarily acted as Rizal's generous tour guide. She accompanied him to Japan's shrines, parks, universities, and other interesting places like the Imperial Art Gallery, Imperial Library, and the Shokubutsuen Botanical Garden. She served as Rizal's tutor and interpreter. She helped him improve his knowledge of the Japanese language, which is the Nihongo, and explained to him some Japanese cultural elements and traditions. Thus, he fell in love with her, which is not quite surprising already, right? However, after a month on April 13, 1888, he left with the fact of not seeing her ever again. In 1987, Seiko married Alfred Charlton, a British chemistry teacher of the first school in Tokyo. They got a child and she died on May 1, 1947 at the age of 80, placed beside her husband's tomb at Zoshigawa Cemetery. In the diary of Rizal, this is what he wrote when he decided to leave Japan and Seiko after a month of bliss staying in there and being with her. Japan has enchanted me. The beautiful scenery, the flowers, the trees, and the inhabitants. So peaceful, so courteous, and so pleasant. Osai-san, sayonara, sayonara. I have spent a happy golden month. I do not know if I can have another one like that in all of my life. Love, money, friendship, appreciation, honors. These have not been wanting. To think that I am living this life for the uncertain, the unknown. I was offered an easy way to live, beloved and esteemed.
For the continuation of report, my topic is all about Gertrude Beckett. Gertrude Beckett is a girl from London with probably the accent like that of Hermione Granger from the movie series of Harry Potter. Among the girls who became a part of Jose Rizal's life, she is considered as one of the most beautiful with her cheerful blue eyes, brown hair, rosy cheeks, and thin lips. She is the eldest of the Gertrude sisters. From Japan and United States, Rizal's next destination was London on May 1888. He met Gertrude because she is the daughter of his landlord, Charles Beckett, an organist at St. Paul Church in the capital city of United Kingdom. She fell in love with him and became his helping hands to finish his artworks, such as Prometheus Bound, The Triumph of Death Over Life, and The Triumph of Science Over Death. He called her Gitty while she was calling him Pity. Some said that it was just one-sided, all alone because Rizal was not able to reciprocate her feelings. He left London on March 19, 1889, so that Gertrude may forget him, and as what his compatriots have said, he left because he was running away from a girl. But before leaving Rizal, as a remembrance to finish up his composite carving of the heads of the Bucket sisters.
So, for the continuation of Jose Rizal interlude, I will be reporting about Suzanne Jacobi and Josephine Brunken. So, by the way, my name is Leonelda Joyce G. Salinas. In 1890, Rizal moved to Brussels because of the high cost of living in Paris. In Brussels, he lived in the boarding house of two Jacobi sisters, namely Suzanne and Marie. He lived in this house when he wrote his novel El Filibusterismo in 1890 to 1891. The romance of Suzanne Jacobi, or Petite, was a Belgian woman who was the niece of the landladies of the boarding house where Rizal stayed in Brussels in 1890. As the, as the dependent Rizal was preparing for the trip to Madrid, two things brought some measure of cheer to him. First was the Summertime Festival of Belgium, which was celebrated in carnival style with colorful costume, fantastic floats, and many days of merit. Second was his romance with Petite Suzanne Jacobi, the pretty niece of his landladies. By leaving Brussels, Rizal left the young Suzanne a box of chocolate. 2 months later, Suzanne wrote a letter to Dr. Jose Rizal. The letter The lower part of my PPT shows the letter of Suzanne to Jose Rizal. To, su- to her surprise, Rizal returned to Brussels by the middle of April 1891 and stayed again in Jacobi boarding house. Rizal return, however, was not specially for Suzanne, because for the hero just busied himself revising and finalizing the manuscript of El Feli for publication. On July 5, 1891, Rizal bade goodbye to Brussels and Suzanne, never come back again in Belgium and in her arms. So the story about Josephine or Josefina Branken, the wife of Dr. Jose Rizal. Josephine Branken, born of Irish parents, namely James Brown and Elizabeth McBride. Josephine Leopoldine or Joserena, as she was affectionately called by Filipino, was born in Victoria City, Hong Kong on August 9, 1876. She took the family name Branken from her adopted father, Mr. Branken. The issue with Josephine and Jose. Josephine became Rizal's sweetheart at Dapitan. Out of his relationship, a series of minor crises came into the life of our national hero. The domestic help as well the sister of Dr. Rizal, who were there to make life more comfortable for him in the forsaken place, suspected Josephine, a right woman, of being a Spanish spy. After the death of Jose Rizal, Josephine with Pasiano and Trinidad Rizal, her brother and sister-in-law, the latter a Katipunera and a Mason, crossed tightly guarded enemy lines toward Cavite. At the time of their arrival, the Magdiwang and Magdalo factions were meeting at the Casa Hacienda of Imos, according to Artemio Ricarte. On December 15, 1898, Josephine Brunken remarried, this time to another Filipino, namely Vicente Abad, a businessman whom she met in Hong Kong. Soon the Abads were balikbayans to the Philippines. In her second marriage, Josephine had a child named Dolores, or nicknamed Pichay. Some of the Abads, all mestizos, claim that Pichay was not a daughter of Vicente, but of Dr. Rizal. Rizal Dulce Extranjera, or Josephine, expired quietly on March 15, 1902, a victim of tuberculosis of the larynx. She was buried in the Happily Valley Cemetery in Hong Kong.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Nelga Salak, and I will discuss about Nellie Bousted. There were at least 9 women linked with Rizal, and these include Nellie Bousted. Rizal, having lost Leonor Rivera, entertained the thought of courting other ladies. So how does Rizal met Nellie Bousted? While a guest of Bousted family at their residence in the resort city of Biarritz, he had befriended the 2 pretty daughters, which is Adelina and Nellie, of his host Eduardo Bousted. Rizal used to fence with the sisters at the studio of Juan Luna. Antonio Luna, Juan's brother and also a frequent visitor of the Bousted, courted Nellie, the woman who was also courted by Jose Rizal, but she was deeply infatuated with Rizal. In a party held by Filipinos in Madrid, a drunken Antonio Luna uttered unsavory remarks against Nellie Bousted. This prompted Rizal to challenge Luna into a duel. Unfortunately, Luna apologized to Rizal, thus averting tragedy for the compatriots. Their love affairs unfortunately did not end in marriage. Because Rizal refused to be converted to the Protestant faith as Nellis demanded, and Nellis' mother did not like physician without enough paying clientele to be a son-in-law, and Rizal did not like this idea. The lovers, however, parted as good friends with Rizal left Europe. And one of Rizal's description about Nellie Bousted is, isa siyang dalagang tunay, matalino, masayahin at matuwid.